So if you'd like to just give a little brief introduction of yourself to the viewer.
So I am a music manager, music consultant, guest lecturer, educator. So I spend my time across my clients, do consultancy for like independent artists, labels, publishing companies, live across the industry, and then I lecture at universities from time to time, just so I can help educate the up and coming new set of people.
Whereabouts did you grow up?
I grew up in Grenada, which is Southern Caribbean. I was born in London, but I moved over there when I was like 4, and then came back to London to do university at like 21, and I've been here ever since.
Okay. So in terms of your path of education, what sort of led you into the creative industry?
My path of education, you know what? It's a bit of a kind of sideways journey, because music wasn't what I came to London for. I actually came to London to study law. But while I was in university, I coincidentally got a job in a recording studio as an engineer. And so I used to do that after university alongside the degree. And then once I finished my degree, I just kind of switched full time into it. So I started out as an engineer, moved into production, songwriting, fell into management on the off chance of just trying to help friends.
In terms of music management, what inspired you to manage artists? Like, what was the intention?
I think it was based on personal experience. The management thing was definitely based on personal experience. I've been in a few situations, lost some money, working with bigger producers, bigger songwriters. I guess at the time I was trying to fit in, be accepted. I didn't really know the business like that. So, and that gave me the know-how, because I was like, I'm not going to let it happen to me. And then if it's happening to me, it's happening to others. Let me see if I can help on the management side of things. So I kind of fell into it by mistake.
So what was the main sort of obstacle that you faced in business, and how did you sort of resolve that?
Obstacles. So the music business as a concept, and also like as a practicality thing, can be quite difficult to navigate, because there's so many nuances, right? And I think the biggest thing for me was kind of, because it ever evolves, it was like keeping up with everything, you know, and making sure that not just when I go into a meeting, but if I meet an artist or I'm talking to an up and coming exec or an executive or president, that I kind of knew how to navigate the current structures. Because again, like with stuff like AI, it's forever evolving. So the obstacles were just like, sometimes things change so quickly, you're kind of behind the ball and having to keep up with that.
So in terms of artist management, what would you say makes a good artist manager?
A good artist manager, I think it's evolved over the years, whereas management used to be quite a straightforward, hey, you find an artist, you help with the development of that artist, you sign them to a label, and then you follow that road. Management has become more of a business, whereas I can now partner with an artist. So in order to kind of map that out, you have to be a great communicator. Not necessarily know people, but just know how to engage with people, right? So interpersonal skills, super important. And then obviously knowing the business you're going into, understanding legally where you are, kind of what moves you have to make from a creative standpoint, how to put together a record, like how to know when a record's finished, type thing. And then it's understanding the market you're then pushing the product into, branding. You know, it's all how some managers are really good at promotions, so they end up being great at branding. Some managers are really good at admin, so they know how to structure business deals. It just depends on the type of manager you want to be as well. So I'd say communication, branding, and interpersonal skills are like my top 3.
So when you go to work with an artist, what sort of things do you look for in an artist?
The first thing is a willingness to learn. Right, with artists, it's very important that they have a willingness to learn. Because like I said earlier, with the music business, things tend to move quite quickly in terms of how things change. So Usually, like with a marketing thing, if you market a record one way, within 3 months, that's kind of obsolete. So you then have to find the next thing.
Mm.
Willingness to learn, be able to listen.
Mm.
Listening is super important. Be coachable. You know, if someone, not with more knowledge, but if someone who's experienced comes in and says, "Hey, I think you should do this," I definitely think it should be a conversation. Understand sticking to your vision, but follows on to the next thing. Have a vision.
Mm.
Not beyond, I want to be famous, I want to be a global star. Have an actual vision and a purpose for your music. And then the last thing would be know how to perform.
Mm.
Even if you don't want to do it with a band, or know how to entertain a crowd.
Mm.
So when you step into that space, you're able to capture their attention with what you curated. So,
So in terms of artists, obviously social media
yeah,
presence is a huge thing now. How do you feel like artists should present themselves online?
authenticity. I should definitely be authentic. Or as authentic as they can be, because you don't want to share everything, you know. But if you can be a roadmap for someone who's coming up, or even just letting the fan into that journey, you get that human experience and that human connection, because you'll find people who are like, hey, I've been through this thing. That is why I like you. Because if you go to a concert and you meet an artist, you'll see fans say, oh my God, when you went through X and Y and Z, it's like that type of connection. The authenticity is super important. That would be on the top of my list.
So when you're working with an artist, say you're helping to develop an artist, what are some of the key things that go into that process?
Artist development varies from artist to artist, but the core part of it is having a good song or songs and having a way to get those songs to a fan base. Doesn't have to be a massive fan base, just a fan base. It could be online, it could be, you could do it via live shows, but there has to be a plan for that. And then once you have the songs ready, it's then figuring out what that plan is in terms of your live performances, you know, how you want to present, how you want to present online, what you want to talk about, are you a football fan, those kind of things. So when you're coming into it, you have an identity, right? Artist development is about developing the identity of the artist and the sonic sound of an artist. And once we have that, everything else kind of slots into place eventually.
So in terms of streaming, what sort of advice do you have for artists who are trying to improve their presence in the streaming world?
Learn SEO, right? Streaming is about algorithm. Algorithm is tech. If you want to improve your streaming, SEO. And how you improve that is through content, one, understanding your keywords, two, if you want to get really technical with it, is, for example, if you have a song called I Love Hamburgers, in your content, make sure you use the words hamburgers as much as possible so it relates back to you. So when people search hamburgers, your name may come up, right? The algorithm is about discoverability, right? Discoverability is based on just being able to find an artist. So if your artist name is, I don't know, Sky Blue, associations in content with Sky Blue and in the back, it all kind of ties together. And then Spotify's, Apple's algorithm picks up the signals and it kind of bumps you up. So over, say, 7 or 8 releases, that improves and it starts to kind of compound. And then based on that, you become more searchable.
So when artists are actually making music, I know obviously it varies depending on what artist,
Of course.
but what are some of the key elements of making a great record in today's times?
In today's time, making a great record, like you said, it varies. But to me, if I'm listening to a song, I have to feel it. And the part of that is dynamics, right? And the thing about modern music is a lot of the dynamics have been taken out of it. Whereas if you bring back the dynamics, which is like the vocal infractions, you know, it may be a one-off guitar lick, it's just something that makes the music stand out a bit, becomes easier. And a good mix on the record will help it. Because if something's easy to listen to, people take it in easier. If it's more complicated, it's muddy, people may not know why, they just may not listen to it. So those are important.
What's a key piece of advice that you give to artists you work with about developing new music?
Go live life.
Yeah.
Go live some life. I think the best songs come from life experiences. And if you think about it, some of the best songs, top songs in the world have come from life experience. Like you think about all the greats. Usher's Confession was based on Jermaine Dupri's story of him going through breakups and cheating, and you know what I mean? So those things reflect life. And once you can reflect life, you can make a great song.
What about in terms of developing like a whole album?
There has to be a common thread. And with an album, you definitely have to have a common thread. So you didn't have to talk to each other per se, but it has to be an easy listening experience. So I don't know if you've ever pressed play on an album and just sat there and listened to the whole thing because everything just felt like it fit together. Super important. Sequencing on an album, super important because the listener just moves from one to the other. I think part of today especially is we live in a singles world. So you may not get that as much.
Okay.
Right? So with artists now, what you find is they just throw a bunch of songs on the album and don't really worry about the sequencing.
So I wanted to ask is, obviously you've managed different artists.
Yes.
Who are some of the main artists that you've managed?
So I've worked with Shea Universe, who's an amazing vocalist from the UK, soul vocalist. Worked with Jamal Woon, phenomenal producer. Currently manage Sean Hamilton, who's Grammy nominated. He's worked with her, Pusha T, Justin Bieber. And, you know, our relationship is more of a business partner relationship than a traditional management relationship. You know, I've worked across the board, Mario Winans, Beanie Man, the list goes on. But yeah, because I've been around for a minute.
What are some of the different records that you've made with those artists?
Oh, that's a good question. So with Jamal Woon, it was a lot of Flo's first project. With Shay, it was her second album, I believe, or third album project. With Sean, it's been like a bunch of records. So everyone from new artists like Manny Millie, who's, you know, a great vocalist from the US. You know, Sean's worked on Shay as well. You know, I worked on a lot of records. Worked on a record with Beanie Man. That was fun. Wow, man, I've gone really blank when it comes to the amount of stuff I worked on. Sorry.
No, that's cool, man. What would you say has been your favorite experience so far working in the music industry?
Oh, that is a very good question. My favorite experience. You know what? I think it was being able to meet legends and people that I've grown up with and interact with them and hear the stories. Like just sitting in the studio and them saying, hey, listen, but I remember this happened, and you're like, whoa. Like as a kid, I never thought that the person on the TV would be in front of me and would be having a conversation. So for me, that's like a really cool experience.
How have you sort of learned to build relationships in the industry?
Don't give to get, right? Like I know people say you gotta be reciprocal, but don't give to get. Like if, for example, if I see an artist, I know I can't manage the artist, or I know another manager or executive is looking for an artist. I'll be like, hey, listen, this really cool artist, I'll send them, you know, or if I know someone's looking for a distribution deal, I'll be like, hey, I spoke to this person. And it's not that I do that to get something back. I just do that because I know that may help that person level up in whatever they're doing.
Something that I wanted to go into was sort of live performances. What do you think makes a really good live performance from an artist?
Crowd participation, being able to keep the crowd engaged. in whatever way that is. It could be, talking to them
Mm,
between songs. It could be getting them to participate in your song. It could be just having a really vulnerable, intimate moment with an
mhm,
acoustic song. It could be anything, but just being able to really engage with the crowd and hold them and
mm.
get them to interact with you past the songs that they know.
So in terms of like crafting records for different
Yeah.
purposes, um, what's sort of your process like when you're working with an artist? How do you like direct them to make a song for a specific type of environment?
It goes back to sequencing, right? If you're working on an album, you have to put together songs in a way that takes the listener on a journey. So it's not going to be club, 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 or, you know, bitch, 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 bitch all the time. It may
Mm,
be a club record followed by maybe like a mid-tempo record,
mhm,
followed by another kind of high energy. Then it'll drop into like an acoustic record, just so it
mhm,
takes them on a little bit of a journey. That's the advice. I leave the creativity mostly up to the artist, but I guide it with, say, just moving pieces around the board to make sure that they fit like a puzzle.
mhm. What inspires you to be creative as a person?
I think because I started out as a creative, it's always
Mhm,
there. But with management, I've learned to systemize it.
mm,
So I create an ecosystem around the artist
mhm,
to make it easy for them to function
mhm,
as a creative because I know what I guess I needed.
mm.
So I've just essentially created that.
What sort of advice do you have for an artist who wants to sort of hammer down on the actual business aspect of the industry?
Start with the basics. It's really about the basics. Learn the basics of law, what the terms mean from a contract standpoint, terms that you'll probably see in a contract. Learn the basics of recording yourself. I think there's
Mhm,
there's phenomenal value in an artist learning the recording process. Like you don't have to be great at it, but
mm,
understanding what it entails for you to get a great vocal, whether you're a singer or rapper,
mm,
super important. Um, and also just learn a little bit of music and production.
mm.
Not say that you're going to use it or become a producer, but I think the more involved you are in the process, the easier it is to recognize your vision.
So, in terms of like an artist creation process,
Mhm.
when they're trying to create something, um, what do you think is important for them to have in terms of like a mindset when doing that?
Artist creation process. That's a very good question, actually. I think the artist needs essentially they need freedom. So
Mm,
throw everything at the wall, see what sticks.
mhm,
Right? Some ideas are going to be great, some ideas are going to need fleshing out. But as a creative, throw them all out
mm.
and see what resonates. And then based on that, start your creative process.
Okay.
So vomit up as much as possible and then start scaling it back.
So obviously you do public speaking.
Yeah.
What are some ways that you've learned to build up public speaking skills, and what advice do you have for people who want to do it?
So public speaking skills is something that I've had to get used to. First and foremost, like I
Hmm.
still think I need massive work, but
Hmm.
start small.
Hmm.
I know they give you advice on picture people naked, but to me, just starting small,
Hmm.
room full of like 10 people,
Hmm.
get comfortable, and then get uncomfortable. Throw yourself out there into bigger spaces, bigger places,
Hmm.
because when I first started, I used to ramble a lot, and as time has gone on, I kind of got quite succinct with it.
Hmm.
But you have to go through that in order to be great or be
Hmm.
good. I'm not great yet. I'm gonna get there,
Hmm.
but yeah,
So you're going to be a mentor at the upcoming South by Southwest
I
event.
know excitement, excitement.
Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, so how did the South by Southwest sort of like collaboration come about, and what's that going to be like?
You know what? To be honest, South by Southwest thing was a conversation, simple as. It wasn't like anyone reached out to me. I was just having a general conversation with the head of music, Adam, and he was like, "Hey, do you want to be part of this?" I was
Hmm.
like, "That sounds amazing." It wasn't something that I necessarily thought of
Hmm.
doing, but when the opportunity came, I'm like, "This is so cool,"
Hmm.
because I've been to South by Southwest in Austin. I was like, you know what? I'd love to be part of it. So
Hmm.
that's how that came about.
When you're like mentoring artists and
Hmm.
stuff, What do you feel like the most important thing is when someone's trying to learn how to mentor an artist?
Um, Mentoring is so it's so different with different people, right? Because everyone has a thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Even me, I have a thing. So from a mental perspective, I had to develop myself.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I know this channel is about mindset and growth. So I had to develop myself as a person, right? I had to figure out what my triggers were, how they affect my day to day,
Mm-hmm.
because then I can see that in somebody and help them go through that process.
Mm-hmm.
And then we focus on the creative or the music or the videos or whatever else after that. It's the mentoring the person and helping develop the person. And
Mm-hmm.
then once you get that process underway, then everything else comes after that. Of
Mm-hmm. So yeah, I think obviously communication's a big part of
course.
that. Something I wanted to ask is, so with artists,
Mhm.
what advice do you have for artists who are learning to communicate with people in the industry?
In the industry, communication's key. But a fundamental thing that I don't think people talk about much is most of the time people are coming from two different perspectives. So think about label versus artist, right?
Mm-hmm.
An artist will always, or more time, come from a creative perspective. A label will most likely come from a business perspective.
Mm-hmm.
Creative and business don't necessarily talk to each other. So learning how to communicate your way through that is super important. And that's why a lot of relationships between label and artists break down, because they're communicating the same thing, but in very different ways,
Mm-hmm.
right? So the artist needs to learn on a basic level how to listen to the business and make sense of it. And something that I said, understanding fundamentals is key. And
Mm-hmm.
then the label need to learn to listen to the creative beyond the ideas that they're coming with and like what they're trying to accomplish, and
Mm-hmm.
then put it in a structure and a system that aids the artist.
Something I saw about the other day was a label was working with like an artist,
Yeah,
and the artist had some different things that they knew
yeah,
would sort of like pop off,
yeah.
but the label sort of like didn't believe in that, and then the artist left.
Yeah.
What advice do you have for artists and labels when they're trying to figure out when to invest in something?
With that, with artists and labels and investment, I think it's important that conversations are had where an artist and their team can say, can you give us 3 months?
Mm-hmm.
We've got some stuff we think is going to really work. And if it doesn't work, we can revert back to whatever you guys had planned. But just give us 3 months to do this, right?
Mm-hmm.
And what the label needs to do is, because the label technically give you like a year, 6 months to figure it out anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And then when they don't see that, that's when they step in and like, we need records, we need this, we need that, we need that, we need that. And a lot of the time the artists don't have their process figured out yet. So, and it's high pressure when you're being asked to deliver a record and you haven't figured out your process. So
Mm-hmm.
the artist team needs to communicate more effectively with the label, and the label need to take that on board and adapt the investment around that.
In terms of like financially,
Mm-hmm.
how do you know how much financial support, like what sort of the indicators for you of where you know how much finances to put into something?
Well, the finance side of things, and we look at it from a what's the most we need versus what's the minimum we need.
Mm.
And we'll always work on the minimum. Not because we want to save money or whatever, but we want to see how far we can get with the minimum before we bring in the bigger budgets. So we know, okay, we can do it at this level with this budget. That means we can slowly scale up to the upper. So we just work our way up rather than
Okay.
just demanding 5K for this to do. Be like, hey, we want to test this, give us this amount of budget. That's worked. All right, can we have a little bit more? So we just drip feed into the artist over a period of say like 6 months to a year.
Mm-hmm.
That way, the label can see the money's been put to good use, and we
Mm-hmm.
can actually say, hey, we're building this from the ground up, and we've created a solid foundation.
Okay. Something I wanted to ask, obviously, you're sort of tackling the industry from a different financial point of view because
Yeah.
obviously you're a manager. What are some different ways that you've learned to like manage financially in the industry?
Managing in the industry finance particularly is it can be a bit of a minefield, but one thing that we navigate really well is we say, know when you're going to get paid and make a plan around that. So, for example, if you release a song, say in January, you know your PRS dates, you know your PPL dates, you know if you're with a publisher, you know your dates. If you're with a label, you know you have to recoup, so you know no money's coming in there. So we look at other options, live, brands, you know, TV appearances, you know, just auxiliary income. And then we make sure that at every point there's a contingency money. So if anything was to ever happen or we have room to maneuver. I think with a lot of artists, they don't necessarily factor that in. We factor in before the money even hits the account, tax, you know, what the artist needs to live on, what they, you know, if they want to do any crazy things like go buy an expensive watch or a car or deposit on a house or, I mean, just factor all those things in and we put it in a financial plan along with an accountant just so that the artist can see where their money's going and the label can see where the money's going. So they know that we're fiscally responsible. That's essentially how we navigate it.
I wanted to ask about the work that you've done with PRS. So
Yeah.
how did the relationship with PRS form and what sort of work have you done with them?
So PRS have a few funds that they give out to artists and creators and organizations. And I act as an advisor for some of those funds. And I started with Power Up, which is a Black initiative, helping Black executives and creatives, artists along to help further their career aspirations. So if they want a particular job and, you know, help with the training and whatnot. So that's been really, really cool actually. I love to see that grow. Then stuff like the Momentum Fund, so artists that are not starting out, like mid-level artists who have accomplished some things and just need a little bit of funding to get over the hill. That's what the Momentum Fund is. And yeah, just assessing and interacting with artists and just letting them know, hey, listen, this funding's here. I think you should apply. It's letting them just champion PRS as a foundation, but letting them know like, hey, this is a real opportunity for you to grow. You can use the funding to grow. So yeah.
So, you know, when an artist is applying for funding, what's the proper process for them to do so?
When they're applying for funding, I would say the key thing is to read. A lot of artists, from you know my experience of what I've seen, is they don't necessarily answer the question. So the thing is, read and answer the question. Look at the keywords that they're using in the question and read. So like, it's like you reciting the question back and then answering the question.
Okay.
Just so, you know, they personalize it, which is cool, but you also have to think, who else is reading this? Like, and what am I trying to get across? So being super clear and understanding what those questions are will be 90% of that battle.
Something that I wanted to revert back to is the contracts.
Yeah.
So when you're an artist and you're reviewing a contract, what are some of the most important things that you need to look out for in a contract?
Contract, your term, your indemnities, your key man clause. Most people, when they look at a contract, if it's a label or a publisher, they're like, what's the advance going to be? But essentially, the advance means nothing if your retention period is super long. So what retention period is after you've either left the label or you fulfilled your commitment, how long they have access to your music and can exploit it. So sometimes it's 5, 10 years, sometimes it's forever, life of copyright. So just be mindful of those little things that can kind of sway whether you actually have a long career or not.
So in terms of an artist having longevity, what do you think makes an artist have longevity in their career?
Artist longevity, fan base and catalog. Fan base because they're the ones who are buying and interacting with you. So once you have a dedicated fan base, you will always have work. You can go and do show in Norway, Sweden, Australia, because you have a fan base.
Okay.
Peter Andre is a classic example of someone who has a fan base, and no matter when he releases music, they will go and support him, right? Kanye, massive fan base. No matter what he does, no matter how crazy he comes across, they will always support him. He will be able to pack out a stadium with 80,000 people at any given time.
Yeah.
Right? Fan base is key, and then catalog is key because you have to be able to go and perform for your fan base. So those two things.
So, say if an artist wants to have international appeal,
Yeah.
what are some ways that they can tap into other countries' audiences?
International appeal is easy. Just work with artists in that territory, that country. So say, for example, you have a song that's doing really well over here. Reach out to someone in France, in Germany, in the US, in the Caribbean, in Africa, and just get them to jump on the song. That's one way you can cross fan bases over. You bring your fan base into their world, they bring their fan base into your world. And then from that, you can build on shows, appearances, radio slots, working with other artists. And one person who's done it really well is Central C. He's worked with a bunch of European, Australian rappers, and now look at him, he's a global superstar.
From your experience, what do you think one of the biggest things that's changed in the industry, and how would an artist sort of adapt to that change?
Changing the industry, a lot has changed because we've gone from vinyl to tape CDs to MP3s to streaming. And that's in the last 50, 60 years. But what I would say is, if you know how to communicate with your fan base, the medium doesn't matter, right? Yes, the streaming rate is low. We all know that that's a given. But now the streaming is just a marketing tool for everything else that you do. So build your world, right? Build your world. Have your merch. Have your live experiences. Create immersive things that artists can get into. One of me and my client, we're developing a game to go along with a release. Do you know what I mean? Like, do some interesting things that make the fan base go, yeah, I want to be part of that. Like music, it's important, but it's just a communication tool for everything else.
What do you think, like, obviously with the artist and the consumer, it's more of a psychological thing.
Yeah.
What do you think some of like the psychological factors are that go between the artist and the fan?
I think the psychological side of that is, there's a thing called the key of the music, right? It affects certain parts of the brain. So if you have a song in A, it may make you feel a certain way. Like there was a test done years and years ago where they were testing out like what they call the brown frequencies. Not to get too graphic, it makes you release yourself, right? And they were trying to use it as a noise deterrent to disperse crowds. But it was so explosive that the body just lost all function and just let go. That's the power of frequencies. So if you know how to mix your frequencies properly, head to biz in a good mix really works, you can influence a mood of a person. I don't know if you've ever been in a sad mood and then listened to a sad song and got more sad. Or you listen to a really hype song and not say that you're not sad, but you feel a bit more hype and you're a bit more uplifted. And frequencies have a effect on people. And that's why they say your music has to communicate clearly because it has the ability to affect somebody's mood.
Do you think with music, something that I thought is like, some people will say that like some artists will put like low vibrations and low frequencies in the music to like match a certain thing. Do you think there's like a specific intention behind a label or like an artist putting certain frequencies in music?
I think, not to get too conspiracy theorists here, I think yes, there's elements of that. Obviously, it's hypothetical, we can't confirm it. But I think the producer and the artist definitely work on that together to see how it can be a bit more attractive.
Hmm.
Do you know what I mean? Like super low frequencies, you know, if you're not careful with it, can trigger a heart attack.
Mm.
Do you know what I mean? So like think heavy 808s and all those things like, you know, can make your heart skip a beat. And
Mm.
high frequencies can pop eardrums. You know, so you have to be mindful. But I think there is elements of that. If I'm honest, I think there's elements of that.
And I wanted to go into is sort of a bit, obviously, more into your
Yeah.
self-development. So what are some different ways that you've built your confidence over the years as a person?
So confidence over the years. I'm gonna say something really controversial here. I used AI.
Mm.
No, so um, like I've always been like a big, oh, let me get my mind right kind of person, right?
Mm.
So I started self-development books like probably around 2012, 13, somewhere around there.
Mm.
But recently with AI coming on board, I use it to help create a stack,
Mm.
right? So initially I said, hey, what kind of thinker am I? You know, we went back and forth. It said that I said, give me some books to help me develop along those lines.
Mm.
And then it gave me like 3 books. So every 3 months, I go back, I said, okay, I'll finish these 3 books. These are lessons I've learned. This is how I think I've changed mindset wise, da 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 da. Give me the next 3 books. So right now,
Mm.
I'm reading 3 books. The Mountain is You, which
Mm.
is to do with self-sabotage and emotional intelligence. No Mr. Nice Guy, which is essentially dealing with traumas and how they show up in your life, and
Mm.
you just being a people pleaser and how to
Mm.
kind of battle that. And then there's systems thinking, so that goes to how I create systems with artists to develop
Mm.
them and da 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 da. And then there's Atomic Habits, how to make those things stick. So yeah,
I've read Atomic Habits myself.
it's a
Um,
dope book, man. I've read it about 4 times now, but now I'm
mhm.
really kind of using it. Before you know, when you read something and now
Mhm.
I'm reading it, I'm actually going back and making notes. I'm
Mhm.
using it to really set things in place.
I think what it teaches you that book is it's about compounding daily habits.
Yes.
So even with you using like some people might be skeptical using
Yeah.
AI for that, but you're programming yourself.
Yeah.
So the more you read and speak something verbally every day, you're also like verbally manifesting
Yeah.
things as well.
The biggest thing I've learned actually is to pause, right? So what I mean by that is, for example, if something happens,
Mm.
instead of reacting immediately. So say like in a management perspective, if an artist doesn't show up to a session or they're going through like a crisis or whatever,
Mhm.
we tend to react to that. The key is to pull back and be like, what am I trying to accomplish in this moment? And what would the reaction be
Mm.
if I reacted immediately versus give me like 3 seconds. Okay, now let's have a conversation. So it's learning to pause. I think it's
Mm.
super important when it comes to like emotional regulation and being able to just deal with things.
What are some different ways that you've learned to set boundaries in relationships in the industry, and what advice do you also have for artists who are trying to do that as well?
Boundaries are super important. And until I started kind of getting into self-help thing in a mind, I didn't realize how important they were, right? Because I would just work and work and work and work and work and work and work. Artists can't hit me up after 8 p.m. Right? It's a hard like unless your house is burning down or there's some like real crisis going on, like
Mm.
we're not gonna have a conversation after 8 p.m. Family time, I got kids, you know, that's just what that is.
Mhm.
I tend to not do weekends
Mhm.
again unless we're in like project mode or there's like a deal that needs to be closed or but I tend to just
Mm.
block out my time, make sure that family and everything's separate. Also boundaries with the way communication happens is super important. And when I mean that, I don't mean just mean phone calls. I mean like the day-to-day communication. You know how you speak to each other, super important. Because if you
Mm.
foster a relationship based on emotional reactions, it's gonna fall apart super quick. So I'm just mindful about how I speak to people and how they speak to me,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I'm chill. Like I'll be like, hey, I don't do this. And the minute time you do this, that's when we kind of shift into a different gear. But it's been cool. I think it's been a learning experience for me with that because setting boundaries isn't always easy
Mm.
because you don't want to feel like, am I being a bit harsh?
Like kill the vibe kind of thing.
Yeah, am I being a bit? Are they gonna view me a certain way? But if it's for your peace of mind and it allows you to function and flow and do your job at a high level, then set that boundary.
Mm-hmm. So obviously you mentioned being a father.
Yeah.
What sort of like what impact has fatherhood had on your creative journey and just your journey internally as a person?
As a person, okay, I'm gonna be super vulnerable for a second here. I struggled for a long time with the balance of chasing the dream
Mm-hmm.
and kind of making music and being at the forefront of that and showing up as an active father.
Mm-hmm.
Now, not so much because, I'm better at balancing my time, but early days, there was that thing of there's an opportunity here, but I also have to have my son on the weekend. What takes priority? Do you know what I mean? And like that was a super difficult time for me because I wanted to show up in both capacities, but couldn't physically do it. So, yeah, I think, learning how to navigate not just important things with kids, but and again with kids, I think it's also about just showing up and giving them time, not the money, not and that's the biggest thing I had to learn. It's not the things you can get for them; it's just time spent.
Mm-hmm.
So that's been my biggest thing when it comes to being a dad.
Mm-hmm.
The not so much the regret, but the looking back and being like, damn, I could have. Now I know what I know. I could have spent more time.
Mm. How has sort of being a father impacted you internally as a person in terms of self-growth?
As a father, in turn, I just want to be a better person because I know that they're looking at me, and without it being said, they will follow what I do.
Mm.
So being a role model to them, they have to see me show up, you know, for them, for the family, for my wife, for, whoever's in this, like they have to see me show up and execute.
Mm.
So that's why, to me, mindset and growth is so important because you can show up
Mm.
without it being a thing, or you can at least regulate yourself so it's not a thing.
In terms of the different roles that you've played in the music industry, what sort of, how do you know what sort of one you fit into?
The roles in industry for me, I think when I found the management thing, it felt like a fit. With the production thing, even though I was good at it and I had great moments in it, it didn't feel like a fit. It felt like a race to something. With management, it felt like, oh no, I can help and teach people in this thing while being super passionate about music still.
Mm.
And with that, it was simple. Because even like there was a point in time where I stopped, right? Coming back into it didn't feel like, oh my God, I got to do this again. It was like, oh yeah, I missed this.
Mm.
Yeah, I missed this. So I say management is for me where I feel most at home.
Mm. What's been your proudest moment as an artist manager when working with a client?
Proudest moment. Um, I would say watching an artist like really perform venues that they want to perform at. So they're not just doing the venue that's given.
Mm.
Like, um, Shares at Jazz Cafe was amazing. Um, you know, watching I Don't Want to Know with Mario Winans kind of be remixed by The Weeknd, and
Mm.
those moments. It's like little. It's not really the big things for me. It's like little moments of that was really cool. No, I like that.
Mm.
Being able to connect an artist to a big producer, um, and them saying the artist at the time was phenomenal songwriter, and
Mm-hmm.
they didn't end up using the song, but just the fact that an
Mm.
unknown artist got that far
Mm.
was cool. I think being able just to make the calls and for clients like with Sean, he's worked with some phenomenal artists, and we still get those calls, and it's like
Mm.
that's yeah, that's
Mm.
really yeah, we want to do that.
Okay.
It's just being able to work with, seeing them work with people that they really want to work with and do things that they really want to do.
Mm-hmm. Something I wanted to ask is, could you delve a bit more into the work that you've done with Mario Winans?
So it was like just after lockdown, and we could do some writing camps, put together some business stuff for him.
Mm.
Took care of him while he was over here in London, introduced him to like some London creatives. And then just learning with him, it was more of a learning experience because he's done high level business for so long. It was like me stepping into it, being like, oh, okay, I need to
Mm-hmm.
know. Da, 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 da. So, um, you know, the weekend stuff comes through, you kind of look at it and you're like, I need to level up because I don't know what that term means. Or, learning the difference between UK law and US law,
Mm.
and the language, and how they see things, and those kind of things were really important to me because they then make me the manager I am today.
So, in terms of the song Creeping,
Yeah,
how did that sort of like, how did that come together? Like putting that together?
that's so. You know what? Again, with Mario, because he's so accomplished, there was nothing much for me to do creatively. It was just like him just doing what he was doing,
Mm.
and me just going, that's cool. All right, yeah. And then saying, well,
Mm.
what do you think? Who do you think we can place it with? Da, 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 da. So it was me. It was like a relay
Mm-hmm.
of he creates, we run, and it wasn't just me. It was like a few of us. So it made it easy.
Something I wanted to ask, one of the final things I wanted to go into was about songwriting.
Yeah,
So, what do you feel like the key components of making a really high quality song that connects to an audience is?
I think pop songs, commercial songs, and how they connect is very different from just a song. Like pop
Mm.
songs have a structure.
Mm.
The Swedish do it really well. Like they write a particular way,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's melody, it's rhythm, it's like pop music is to do with melody, right?
Mm.
Once they nail the melody, everything else is kind of built around that,
Mm-hmm.
right? With rap and particularly black music, it's very melodic. Not melodic. It's very rhythmic.
Mm.
So the way that we rap, the cadence, where we sing, it's very rhythmic. So when you go into the studio and how you approach the song depends on the artist.
Mm.
But if you're writing with a rapper, it's a very different experience. But if you're writing a pop song,
Mm.
right? So um, and because I am still learning the pop world and how they write, you know, that side of things is very like we're in the room, we all share the pie, you know, in the urban or in the black space with rap and R&B, it's like things are broken down to the percentage. Like
Mm-hmm.
this person gets 5% here, this person gets 10% there, and we've got like
Mm-hmm.
20 writers on the song, and it's a very different dynamic.
So my final question for you would be, where do you sort of want to take your own career in the upcoming years, and are there any other avenues you want to go into?
With my career, I want to really focus on artist development and label services. So that's what we're pivoting into, to really give artists a home where they can develop over a period of time, and develop a catalog along with it. Because in music, catalog is the thing. If you have a catalog and you have a catalog that's earning, you're in good standing. So, going into rights and intellectual property and arts development, and which I've been doing as a manager from an arts development standpoint for a minute. So it's just adding the IP and the rights management alongside it. So yeah, that's the next move.
Thank you very much for coming onto the platform.
No problem.
So this is, if you like to just give the people your social media handles.
Social media handles: Ross Wills, ROSSWILLSS. God, I had to think there for a minute. Across all platforms. Yeah, you can hit me up, DM me, whatever. I'm usually good at least responding to DMs. But if not, I'll catch it at some point and respond. I never not respond.
Perfect, man. So yes, another episode of Energy Inside Motion with my guest Ross Wilson. Thank you very much for watching.